Corey and I had a conversation, and Hank, maybe you can shed some light on how things are in your area. But Corey and I had a conversation. I think it was your aunt that called you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine.
Yes.
So right now, the vaccine is being rolled into the state of Iowa, and it's being distributed amongst the counties. And there's obviously not enough vaccines for the number of people that are actually wanting to get the vaccine.
Yep.
So we're tier B. Level B is now eligible. So this will timestamp the podcast. Level B is now eligible for these podcasts. Yeah. Hey, level B can come listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Level B is eligible for the vaccine.
Yep.
There are over 700,000 people in this level B, and Iowa right now is receiving less than 20,000 doses of the vaccine a week.
And level B is senior citizens.
It's supposed to be 65 and above.
Yep.
So we've already taken care of our front line. We've already taken care of that first level A.
Mm-hmm.
That's done.
Yep.
Now we're moving into level B. So we're senior citizens, 65 and above.
Yep.
And that is, we're not keeping pace.
Yep.
But even more, like you learned from your aunt, Corey, there's a lot more confusion than there is vaccine.
I think the biggest problem is, and she kind of called in a tizzy, because a lot of us have elderly and grandparents and things that, we're supposed to be taking care of and that kind of stuff. And it's almost just a lack of expectations or, they didn't mold their expectations. What I told her that she was mad because my grandparents were getting upset, or maybe not my grandparents, but a lot of grandparents were getting upset that, they were hearing that from their friend that one of their grandkids or their sons or daughters signed them up for the vaccine. Well, then they go onto the website, and the website's melting down because so many people are trying to get signed up.
True.
I didn't even know there was a website.
Exactly.
Well, you wouldn't be able to go there anyway. It's been down 3 days
and
this
stuff
week.
happens. Yeah, it's down almost every day because it's getting just melted down. It's a typical government, problem trying to melt this down. But anyway, what I tried to spin it was we should just be happy that we have a vaccine and that we're getting to that point and that they have a light at the end of the tunnel, but they're just so fed up.
And there's two different vaccines. So there's one vaccine. I don't know if you know this,
It's
Hank,
going to be
but
3 here pretty quick.
Now there's third, yeah.
Right now there's two, and one has to be stored at like negative 172 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's a made-up number. I just know that it's super cold, and a lot of these rural communities can't.
Yep.
They,
So
they just don't have the
I think
capacity
that's
to
the
do that.
Pfizer vaccine.
Yep.
And then there's the one that starts with the M,
Moderna.
And that one can be kept in a normal freezer, but it's still 2 shots. There's a third one coming out from Johnson & Johnson.
That's a one shot.
And where I got this information is from the Secretary of Ag, is
good.
where I'm quoting this from. The third one, Johnson & Johnson, is supposed to come out in February here. And in February, it's only a 1-shot deal, and it can be stored in a fridge.
Oh, great.
So
See, we're making advancements.
It's going to make advancements to where it's a 1-shot deal. You're done. You don't need 2. They mentioned that that by July they think everybody in the U.S. will be vaccinated.
That wants to be.
Yeah, I haven't even put a thought to this. Have you guys? I mean, maybe listeners. When you mentioned like, the vaccine's out, I haven't even thought about getting vaccinated yet. I just figured
We're eligible. We're podcast hosts.
Yeah.
we're front line.
I think Hank, you qualify too now that you've been on a podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how are things in your area?
It's hard to say. It's the same thing. They're trying to hit all the elderly first, and then I go back and forth because living with asthma, the doctors highly recommend getting the COVID. Mm-hmm. But you go on social media and you read all these horrible stories, but then you hear all these great stories. So I think I'm leaning more towards I would probably get the vaccine because I don't want to risk making my lungs any worse than they already are.
Yep.
But my wife she doesn't want to get it because she's a pretty healthy young person and it's probably pretty survivable for her if she was to get it, kind of thing. But it's the same thing. It's just like the mask debate. Half the people want it, half the people don't want it.
Yep.
And we can't just agree to agree. You have to call each other names.
Which is
unfollow people and block
a
people.
a whole nother category.
Yeah.
So the other thing that came out of this conversation that Corey and I had is something that we see in the banking world all the time, and it's elder abuse. We call it elder abuse, and it's not physical abuse, but it's elders getting taken advantage of with that phone call that said their grandson is in jail and they have to send $20,000 to this wiring addressed, and they have to do that before midnight. Otherwise, the kid will never get out of jail again, and they're taken for 20 grand. It's a susceptible demographic, but that's the same thing. Right now, if you're listening to us and you have a grandma and grandpa or you have a parent, call them and check in and make sure that they understand, according to the medical professionals in our area, nobody should have to give anything more than your name and your birth date over the phone in order to sign up for this.
How did we become such a susceptible society?
Don't send your driver's license.
Or that demographic. I mean, like it.
You have to realize though, they have if you're 80, 90 years old, they have never had the technology
Yeah, I suppose.
that we had. So they're trying to catch up. But it's also like it's our turn to take care of them like if it was your kid. Think if it was your kid and they needed a vaccine, you would be trying to figure out how to get it for them, right?
At least figure out how to do it. Right.
Or how, what, where, why. But then somehow on the opposite side, we're not doing that.
And it is, yeah. And they're just so susceptible because of the lack of contact. I mean, that's all that's done, and I shouldn't say all. One of the factors of the coronavirus is it's quarantined that demographic, and they've had a lot less contact than they normally did, which was probably even a limited amount to begin with.
Yeah.
And so, yes, just please give them a call and say hello and make sure that they understand that don't give out more information than you need to. If someone calls or sends you an email, it's probably spam. It's just a bunch of scam artists trying to get this thing together. So I think now I'm ready to jump off my soapbox and try another beer.
Yeah.
But that's our PSA.
Yeah. I get it though. We have become a susceptible society, but like that demographic is particularly susceptible.